here for questions.
Bill, how's he looking this morning? Everything come out of the race?
He looked good. You know, yeah, my assistant, Kenny McCarthy, looked him over, earlier this morning and said everything looked good, and I just was in the stall with him, and he looked great. I mean, his legs are clean. He's eating his hay. It's just remarkable.
The track is now closed for training. Please do not bring any more horses to the track.
Bill, have you looked at the replays again, and what's your reaction?
Well, I
Just kinda sort through
was going to just finish that.
Okay.
Last night both horses actually, Tacitus and Country House, both, they were fine. They recovered so well and ate up right away, which is always a good sign, after a hard race like that. So initially, it looks like both horses came out really well. Really pleased with the way both horses performed. I mean, not only Country House, but Tacitus came with a very good run. Had just he got interfered with a little bit himself. Just I don't think it cost him the win, but Tacitus got bothered a little bit too in the race. Just had to, change his course a little bit, leaving leaving the quarter pole. But anyway. That's it.
And as far as just with the replays you've seen since, validating your thoughts initially, right?
I think so. I mean, I haven't spent much more time watching this morning. I mean, it was just in the tack room, and they're still showing it. And I guess the one thing that, some people seem to think is that War Will got bothered quite a bit too. I didn't realize initially that he got bothered as much as he did, and he's a horse that hung in there. I mean, I think he lost. He was probably the horse that got bothered, that maybe had the most to lose, and did. I think he, having stayed in the race after it happened, looked like it really cost him as well.
Bill, you've been on the winning and losing end of a lot of disqualifications. Talk to us how it feels winning your first Kentucky Derby that way. You mentioned yesterday it was been...
Yeah, it's, I feel terrible that I have to apologize for winning, and I really feel terrible for the connections, for the owners. I mean, I hate to sit there and apologize. I'm, saying something as foolish as I'm sorry I won, because I don't want to give them the wrong impression that I'm unhappy about winning, because I'm not. I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled with the horse. I'm thrilled with everybody that's worked with the horse, and I think they deserve the win. It's just such an unusual way to have to go to the winner's circle and win a Kentucky Derby. I mean, this Kentucky Derby will be talked about for a long time. I mean, I think it'll be probably up there with Shoemaker standing up, at the 16th pole. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things that it's not going to go away. And but we're going to take the win. We're going to take it, and hopefully, we come back. Hopefully, Country House comes back and runs big in the future, whatever race it may be. And I guess sort of redeems himself a little bit.
You mentioned whatever race.
Whether it's the Preakness, the Belmont, the Travers, wherever it is, you know what I mean? I'm not, I don't expect him to win every time, but I'm, you hope that he continues and shows that he's a really quality horse.
Are you saying then that the Preakness is not definitely in the plans, or you're just suggesting?
I didn't. No, I didn't say that. No, I knew those questions are going to come up. We didn't even talk about that last night with the owners. I mean, we spent a lot of time together between the Derby Museum, the Media Center, and the question didn't come up. You're having the Derby winner, you're pretty much forced to go into the Preakness. When the horses crossed the wire, I mean, I was elated. You know what I mean? I thought our horses ran really well, and being second, I said, well, there's no real pressure to go to the Preakness, and both horses are very well suited for the Belmont. But now we've got to rethink that, and certainly probably for for Country House. I don't think it with Tacitus. I don't think it's any pressure to go to the Preakness. I mean, I think we could just wait and go to the Belmont with him, and then we've got to make the decision for Country House.
Is it confusing that each state has their own rules regarding these disqualifications? And
I don't know if the rules are so much different, and I guess they probably vary slightly, but there's no uniformity from state to state, whether it be those type of rules, whether it's regarding disqualification, medication rules, the whole thing. I mean, it's really confusing. I mean, every time we ship horse, like, well, what's the rule here? What's the rule there? So we got to keep checking, and what's a violation in one place is not a violation in another, and you can go down. There's a lot of things that from a trainer's standpoint would make it a lot easier if it was the same everywhere. However, you've got a different group of stewards in each state and at each track, and I'm sure they all try to do the best job they can, but I guess there are slightly variations the way they see things. But I don't think they're, to put this in perspective, it was a difficult decision because it was the Kentucky Derby, and I don't think it would have been a difficult decision if it had been the first race on the card.
Bill, you said this is a big, strong horse, and you thought he could benefit from running back from Louisiana Derby to the Arkansas Derby. So you think maybe 2 weeks wouldn't be an issue, but does it come into play now that he did just run those three races in 6 weeks?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, now we're talking about a horse that's having had quite a few races. I mean, I think, you run back in the Preakness, and, maybe you hit the board, maybe you don't, maybe you win, but it probably compromises his chances a little bit to win the Belmont. I mean, that's just looking at it as a trainer and what would be normal. But the Triple Crown is not a normal situation. I mean, it never has been. I don't think they should space anything out anymore. I think the challenge of the Triple Crown is that it's 3 races close together, and it takes a champion. Hey, it takes a justify, to win those kind of races.
Bill, I mean, we were all talking about Tacitus going in. Did you think Country House had that kind of effort in him?
I thought he had the effort in him. I really believed in him. I was very surprised that he broke and was as close to the pace as he was. I would have thought, it would have been the other way around. I thought Tacitus would have been up in the position that Country House was, and I thought Country House would have been out the back a little more, position where Tacitus was. But that's why it's so interesting. You don't know until they open the gate what's going to happen.
But when would the decision be made, or when we have the talk about Preakness?
Well, I mean, I'm sure that discussion will probably start in the next day or two. I'm sure it'll begin probably at some point today.
Bill, racing now has a big moment of controversy, like so many major sports do, with a call that people can look at as good, bad, or otherwise. How do you feel that impacts the sport?
I really believe that the call that was made yesterday shows the integrity of the sport. I think it wasn't an easy call, but if they let that go yesterday, I think it would have been, much more talked about.
Do you have any doubts that they might leave him?
I don't see that. I mean, I guess we'll probably know by 6:30 this evening. I don't know if somebody's gonna claim foul on the call, if they're gonna have an objection. I don't know. They probably have 24 hours to do it, I suppose.
Were you surprised that there was no initial inquiry?
There's so much confusion there.
Right.
I really wasn't aware of what happened and the extent of it. You see horses going in different directions, but just watching it, through the binoculars and trying to watch 2 horses at the same time, I really didn't see what happened. Jose Ortiz got off his horse, got off Tacitus, and he was right behind it. He said, man, he said there was a lot of bumping going on, and he said there was a real incident, at that point. And he said, I think he in his mind, he said they've got to take it down. I mean, for him, I mean, just the way he was looking at it, and he probably had the best view of anybody, and he thought it was a no-brainer.
What did Flavian say to you?
I don't even know if he realized the extent of it, because most of it happened right inside of him. I mean, he was outside. They came over and they bumped our horse at kind of the end result, and kind of turned him sideways a little bit. But he was out. He was clear enough where he could recover well. It wasn't like he got squeezed from both sides. And I think he was riding, and I don't think he really realized how traumatic it was, to the horses inside of him, which I'm sure, can happen. I don't think that it wasn't like he was looking at it this way. He's looking down the racetrack, and then, he gets bumped, and he probably didn't realize the extent of it.
Was it Flavian's decision to make the objection, or was it you?
Do you know, I don't know how it all, I talked to him, I talked to Jose, and then I don't know when the objection was lodged. I don't know even if did they have quick official here?
They do.
They do. I don't know if one of the other riders, I believe
John Court, they said.
John Court should have, because he really got bothered. I mean, I would have thought he probably lodged an objection.
He did.
Pulling up. Yeah.
He was on the phone right before Flavian.
Yeah. Well, I sent Flavian to the phone. I said, you need to get in there and talk to him. So.
Had he said something to you before you sent him to the phone, or was that based on what Jose said?
It was mostly based on what Jose said, actually. And then of course I had to go look at the films like everybody else.